Andorra is a landlocked nation situated right between Spain and France, whom, as you'll know, both have a history of expansion and conquering whatever wasn't nailed down. Despite its expansionist neighbours, Andorra has managed to exist for over 750 years, which raises the question, why? Why does Andorra exist? So, to grossly oversimplify, as of the 12th century, the lands that made up Andorra were controlled by the Church and under the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Urgell. Now, the Church struggled to defend its lands, and so the Bishop of Urgell turned to the Lords of Carbo to do the defending for them. An agreement was reached in that the Lords of Carbo would be given the rights to tax and conscript men in the region, whereas the Church would retain ownership of them. These feudal rights soon went to the Counts of Foix, which is here, and they and the Church had a good working relationship for about 50 years, which was when the sitting Count of Foix started to pinch a bunch of land from the Church and incorporated it into Foix proper. There was some squabbling, and with the intervention of the King of Aragon, the two sides came to an agreement. The Count of Foix would return the land that he took, and in return the Church wouldn't excommunicate him. Also, both the Count of Foix and the Bishop of Urgell would from then on rule Andorra as co-princes. This arrangement had little change until 1479. This was when the Count of Foix, Francis Phoebus, inherited the Kingdom of Navarre on top of his other lands. And less than a century later, King Henry III of Navarre became King Henry IV of France, and thus from then on one of the co-princes of Andorra was also the ruler of France. And this is one of those things that actually helped to secure Andorra. It was now under the protection of France, and King Louis XIII soon after incorporated into the remaining Kingdom of Navarre. The Spanish didn't mind Andorra being moved closer to France because they themselves had several reasons not to want it. The first was that economically, Andorra had very little to offer, and second, the people there were sympathetic to the Catalonians during their rebellions against Spain, and so, from the Spanish king's perspective, Andorra's inclusion would do little but making Catalonia larger. And third, it didn't want to annoy the Church. As you'll know, the French monarchy would eventually go through some difficult times, and when the French Revolution was well underway, French leaders opted to leave Andorra to its own devices. So now Andorra was on its own. It did not like this turn of events, and so when Napoleon was crowned the Emperor of France, the Andorrans asked for him to return as their co-prince, which he accepted, and then 3 years later annexed Catalonia and incorporated Andorra into it. Napoleon was soon defeated, and Andorra went back to being co-ruled by the French king, and after France was finally done with monarchy, the French president. This status yet again put Andorra under the protection of France, which is why when the Spanish Civil War broke out, it was stationed by French troops to protect it. When World War II broke out, Andorra declared itself to be neutral, which technically wasn't true since it had previously declared war against Germany in the last World War and wasn't invited to the Treaty of Versailles, and so never technically made peace. But even when Vichy France was dissolved and occupied, Germany didn't move into Andorra, and in effect it remained neutral. And after France was liberated, the last threat to Andorra was gone, and its position as an independent nation was secured thereafter.